let me know when. Okay, no problem.
Until 6 o'clock. but-
Okay. Well, we can wait till 6 if everybody wants to take a quick break.
Sorry,
No?
was
We'll start
that
As it's
time
published.
certain, or was it immediately following?
I had 6 o'clock first.
Okay,
and
then we
this
do-
meeting was put on after. like,
Okay,
this
so we
meeting
do,
came in
so it's been
after-
published as 6 PM, is that
Okay,
what
so
you're
we
telling?
can't
Okay, so
start
take a
before
quick
6.
break. And come right back just before 6, please. Jeez, jeez. Welcome, everybody, to the City Commission's second budget workshop. It is April 29th, 2026, and it is 6 p.m., so I'm calling the meeting to order. Beginning with the invocation by Pastor Malberry, Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Borum. Please stand if you are able.
Again, Father, thank you for this day. We give you praise and glory for your goodness towards us. We ask, God, that you will bless us continuously as we seek to move the city in the proper and direct direction. We thank you. God, your hand is upon this city. You know what to do. Touch the leadership, God. Touch every one of us. You know, God, what we need. Give us the wisdom that is conducive for the times that we live. And we'll forever give you the praise. The glory and honor is thine. It is in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Davis?
Present.
Commissioner Campbell?
Present.
Commissioner Borum?
Present.
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Mayor Pereira?
Present. Thank you. Going on to public comments for any items not specified on the agenda, excuse me. Is there anybody here for public comments? Seeing none, we'll close public comments, and we'll move on to discussion direction. I've been asked by Chief Shore to pull the presentation on elite parking services, so we won't go over that.
I actually asked for that to be pulled, Mayor.
Oh, okay, then I'm sorry.
I just want, just for the record.
Commissioner Jones asked to pull. So that is going to be pulled. And we are going to go on to Ms. Pierre, Revenues. That says.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and everyone in attendance. Before I begin, I would like to just follow up from the first budget workshop meeting. There were a few items that were mentioned that were finance related, and I wanted to acknowledge these items were sent to you via email. The budget in Excel and read-only format was emailed. The explanation regarding carry forwards was emailed. An explanation for the transfers in and out was emailed. Confirmation of the setup of the airport account and the TIF bank accounts were provided or confirmed. Do you have any questions regarding the items that were submitted to you all via email? And I'm present to answer those questions.
I don't have any right now.
And I
Thank you.
don't either, and I just want to say thank you for your follow-up.
You're welcome.
I do have a question in reference to the accounts. And if you talk about the email, I actually sent a response back on the email asking to identify the institutions that we actually have those accounts with for our purposes, informational purposes. And I don't know if that's usually asked about, but we know that we bank with a specific bank at this time, which is our, I think you and I had a conversation on the phone. I was supposed to have a response back, but with Ameris Bank, that's our primary bank.
That is
Do-
correct.
Do we have any other financial institutions that we actually have either the interest accounts or our investment accounts with, other than Ameris Bank?
We have accounts related to pension. That's with Principal Bank. But as far as our day-to-day operational accounts, their savings, it's through Ameris Bank. We do not have any investment bank accounts regarding, that are not like pension related at this time. Am I answering the question?
Let me ask the question
Okay.
one more pointed. do the city of Palaca have any other bank accounts, period, that funds are transferred into or out of at all? Just want to know. So whether it's for investments or whatever, I just want to know that bit of information. Do we have any financial
Allow-
institutions that we do business with
Okay,
directly? Our funds go there or we get funds from them?
okay. I would like to confirm what I've said before, that Ameris Bank is where we hold deposits, daily transactions, and we have other accounts that are pension-related that are considered fiduciary accounts. This is from accounting perspective. So we don't have ownership of those accounts, meaning we don't access them because they're considered fiduciary, meaning we have a pension administrator, the resource center. The HR has expertise, knowledge on the interactions with the resource center because the resource center is our pension administrator.
And just to clarify, for payroll, that goes through Wells Fargo, correct? Payroll checks are cut through Wells Fargo?
So we
Just so
have-
that's clear.
We have a third-party vendor,
Yep.
ADP, that
ADP
we've
cuts the
hired
checks through.
that process checks through payroll, but we do not have access to that Wells Fargo account.
Correct,
The
it's
way-
them, but just to clarify,
Right.
that account is through ADP.
That is, the account is through ADP. We do not have control. We do not have access of that account. We hired this third-party company, ADP, to process payroll on our behalf and print checks on our behalf.
So any payroll checks come to ADP, Wells Fargo?
Correct. And Ms.
Since you say Ms. Jones, okay.
Any employee that does not receive electronic deposit of a payroll check would receive a printed check, and that comes from ADP, printed from and Wells Fargo is their bank.
Okay. So we do have to transfer funds to,
No, we don't transfer funds to them.
how does that
So
happen?
what they do is we process payroll, and then we pay ADP. If they're printing manual checks, and they did it, we have 2 or 3 people that get manual checks. They just don't want direct deposit. So those checks come to us on the Thursday after we process payroll, and that is a Wells Fargo check. And that's ADP, so it's listed as Wells Fargo, it's not City of Palaca, it's ADP Wells Fargo.
Great. That clear up a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Thank you.
I got one question
Well,
on
Commissioner
that.
Davis was before
yeah,
you, and before me, actually.
I just want to follow up, and this is for Ms. Pierre. So you have an email request with a similar question. And so I think one of the, and I sent it via email because I know when I send a question, it goes to all commissioners. So I think the point of this is for clarification. The response we're asking is, maybe we should ask a different question, and that question is, does the city have any business that come from other accounts? And that would have been on there as a response, as Commissioner Jones said, to clear it up, that we contract with ADP, but ADP uses Wells Fargo. I think what we're trying to get to is understanding any city business that comes from a specific bank. And so while the city may not hold the account, we do business from that account through our vendor, if that makes sense. So I think that's where we're trying to get to with some of the questions we have. It's not, do we have an account, but we really want to understand, does the city get anything generated from a bank directly or indirectly? And if so, what's the name of that when you're responding to that request to all commissioners? So I would like to ask, when you see the email, if you could respond to that at some point in the future. I know you're very busy right now, but if you could respond to all commissioners with that information. Thank you.
Yes, I'll be more than happy to provide that information and answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you. Go ahead, I think we're all. Oh, did you have something, Commissioner Barnes? I'm so
Well,
sorry.
it was just one thing that Ms. Jones had brought up as it related to how we normally I guess, do disbursements of checks or payment electronically or what have you, and it said there was a couple people who only wanted theirs printed in a way. So question, is that the city standard to be able to do electronic? That's the way we do business, and what is the additional cost associated with having to do manual checks in that regard?
There is no additional cost in that aspect, but like when we did bonus checks, when we do and printed all of the manual payments that came through around December time, that was a additional check run, so that was a cost. But for our employees, because an employee can go in the middle of a pay period and add a bank account, if that bank account is not pre-noted instantly, they're going to get a paper check for that. So that's not an additional cost in that aspect.
Okay.
So our employees in a regular payroll, whether they come electronic or paper, there's not a cost.
So my question was that I was just thinking that it would be for that particular or those individuals on a weekly or bi-weekly basis.
We have two. I think it's about two. But then we have more than two that comes in sometime, and it's because people add a bank
Okay,
account and
okay.
it doesn't get pre-noted, so they will get that
Okay.
paper check for whatever amount they had going into that account.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Commissioner Davis?
So, Ms. Jones, that then gives me a question and a recommendation again, because it's very rare in this day and age for companies to even allow that the city does not have a policy on how paychecks will be entered, so that may be an opportunity to address that. I mean, I've had positions where getting a manual check is not an option on an ongoing basis, of course, when they set up new accounts. But that's a policy that the city may want to look at. We just happen to have two people now, but it sounds like we're open to, if someone requested it, we couldn't deny them because we don't have a policy. But just a recommendation.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All set? Okay, Ms. Pia, we're back on the agenda track.
So everyone should have received the presentation. If you could turn to that's towards the back of the,
Where is it?
unfortunately, we have technical difficulties that is not able to be provided on the screen. However, it was posted online.
Does that want to say revenue?
Yes.
Budget workshop will be the first page. And that picture there is indicative of what a budget should be. It takes a team effort to build a budget. And we have some things that we're facing as a city that I want to cover in tonight's workshop. The only item that I'll say that requires action or requires direction is with the fire assessment. So when I get to that point, I'll mention what information I need from the dais to move forward. But ultimately, tonight's discussion is about planning and discussion to give an opportunity and close the knowledge gap as it pertains to revenues. So if you could, this is an overview of the sections that we'll be covering. We're going to talk about property taxes. We're going to look at revenue trends, the fire assessment, of course, and then potential other sources of revenue. We'll talk about transfers in and out, the cash balance forward, and proceed with any questions, clarifications, and that nature. I kindly request, I would like to be able to go through the sections first. For example, the first section, property tax, I want to go through that in its entirety and then give you an opportunity to raise questions, concerns, and so forth. Okay, so now I'm on this page. And this is just to highlight the fact that we have a potential concern as a city. Many of the cities have this concern where there's a level of uncertainty as it pertains to property tax. The impact of it, we don't know, because As of April 2026, existing property tax laws exemptions, they remain in place. As the 2026 regular legislative session ended in March without passing a finalized constitutional amendment to the November 2026 ballot, those special sessions may still occur. So there's an uncertainty as it pertains to property tax. And we certainly want to take a conservative approach regarding this. So I'm on the second page here that says property tax overview. So the first point I want to make with property tax or ad valorem tax, these are considered general revenue or general purpose local governments. And this information comes from the Florida Legislature Office of Economic and Demographic Research. The second point I want to make is the Florida League of Cities defines unrestricted revenues as flexible funds used for general operations, primarily consisting of ad valorem taxes, municipal utility taxes, communication service taxes, and local business taxes. So these revenue sources are crucial. They're essential for funding essential services, for example, like police, fire, and the other departments that comprise of the general fund. So this table is to highlight the percentage of what the Florida League of Cities defines as unrestricted revenues. At the top, we see ad valorem taxes, and this was for the year 24-25. It's a $4 million, a little over $4 million, which represents 68% of unrestricted revenue. Now, I know that the city has what's considered a large budget, but a lot of it is geared towards capital. We are an aging city. We have aging infrastructure that needs to be replaced, repaired, maintained. So that level of, that part of the budget that is capital intensive is absolutely necessary and needed. But there's a side of this for operations, to keep the lights on, to keep the AC, to keep the operations going. So capital funds cannot be used for operating. So I just wanted to make that clear and plain. So these four revenue types are to keep the city operating. And now we're on this page. Property taxes, percentage of unrestricted revenue. And this is just for my visual folks. I'm visual, so I'd like to see the pie chart. So you can see that big section in blue, which is the 68% that represents ad valorem tax. So the city relies heavily on ad valorem taxes for operations. And the other taxes here are the next highest percentage, 25%, is the municipal utility service taxes, which we do have an opportunity to increase it, but there are limitations to do that. The local business tax, which is otherwise known as the occupational tax, that's only 1%. Communication service tax, that's only 7%, and that comes from the state. That gets collected by the state, and it's considered like a state shared revenue. It gets collected by the state and then distributed to the city. Okay, and now we're on this page. So this is just to give you an overall view of all the general fund revenues that are operations related. So at the top, when you look at this all-encompassing chart, 34.96, you might as well say 35% of that represents property taxes. And right beneath that is our fire assessment fees, which represents 18.8%. Then you have our utility taxes, franchise fees, the state revenue sharing, local options, communication taxes, court-ordered judgments, fines, and so forth. But this is our breakdown of the revenues that we use, that I just want to highlight how key and how important it is for, I guess, those top two. ad valorem taxes and fire assessment fees. And just imagine if we didn't have both of those, that would be a significant hit. 35 plus almost 20%, that's a significant percentage if you add that together, 60, 68, 35, and 20, yeah, 58%. Okay. We're going to move on to this next slide in the green table, which is named collection rate. And this is just to show you as well the progression over the past few years. The first line is a budgeted amount. The standard operating procedures for a budgeted amount is it's a percentage of the levied amount. That levied amount comes from the property appraiser. They would send a notification via the trim notice, and they would send a notification to us as a city to let us know this is how much that can be levied, but the amount levied is not the same as what we actually collect, because there are folks that can't afford to pay. There are folks that they might get set up with an installment plan and have to pay a portion of it in bits and pieces. So our collection rate is what I want to highlight. You can see in 2021-22, there's a collection rate of 89.9%. 2022-23, you see the 85.93%. 23-24, the 90.19% collection. And then our latest, the 24-25, is a 88.57%. So normally, the range is within like 95 to 90%. But because we're in a fiscally constrained area, the collection rate is significantly lower. So that's something to consider, that say the state approves that, okay, we're going to lower property taxes, it's going to happen in phases, we're going to lower it by 25%, 35%. Whatever they lower it by, we always have to consider that we're not going to collect the full levied amount. It'll always be based on past historical knowledge here. It'll always be within this range. And the conservative approach is to assume that the collection rate would be 85.93%, the lowest rate. I'm a numbers person, so I know sometimes I can go down the rabbit hole, but I just wanted to, for the folks that are visual, I want you to see and understand that, yes, there's an ad valorem amount that's levied, but we don't get the full amount. Okay, so before we move on to revenue and trends, I would like to give you an opportunity to raise any questions, concerns about the information presented so far.
Anyone have any questions so far?
It's not necessarily a question, but it is for clarity, as people are, up and along about the property taxes maybe going away. Could you explain, or I don't know if legal want to do it while we're in this budget workshop, that all of the property taxes are not slated to go away. It's only homesteaded properties. So we won't lose all of this, because when you say ad valorem taxes, that's all property, not just homesteaded property. Is that correct?
So at the start of this legislative session, I believe there were about 5 different proposals that were being considered. Some were quite drastic in terms of eliminating all. There is going to, I don't think anything's going to happen this year. It's not slated to. So I do think this is something that we may see in the next legislative session, but we cannot predict what form it's going to take. So as of right now, we're okay for this next upcoming fiscal year, but there is pressure to eliminate all property taxes.
Right. So I just don't want people to be up in arms, and I don't want us to panic as well.
Sure.
By saying, oh, we can't adjust the fire assessment fee because we're gonna lose all the ad valorem taxes, because that's not about to happen. However, you know, when you start talking about the economic impact and us being fiscally responsible, that's why we made mention that we have to tighten the belt on some maybe government spending to be prepared for that. So I just wanted to make that statement and actually make sure that I'm saying it right as we go through and look at what we're about to do as far as with our budget and looking at where we could make adjustments. I'll just say it that way. So I just wanted to make sure I was on the right track. Because when you say that we may lose all the ad valorem taxes, first of all, not all at once, and secondly, not all the taxes right now. I think the main focus is on homesteaded.
And I just don't
properties.
think we truly know at this
Right.
point what may or may not happen. It's very unpredictable
Yeah.
based on the number of proposals at the state level. So we could lose it all, we could
Yeah.
lose just a portion. We do have to tighten our belts, of course, to prepare for this, but we also have to be careful about how quickly we tighten our belts too tight so that we don't cover what we have upcoming. Yeah, so it's going to be a balancing act. Go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
Well, since we're on this topic, you're right, we don't know what we don't know. And Commissioner Jones, I will say, you're right, but I want to talk about, this is talking about eliminating property taxes. And you're right, it's not all ad valorem taxes, but property taxes in particular. And for our city, property taxes, as you can see on the information Ms. Pierre just gave us, especially when we're talking about it in terms of unrestricted revenues, I know there are probably some other taxes in here with ad valorem, but the bottom line is whether you're specific with a number or not, property taxes make up the majority of our city's revenues. So no, it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, and it may never happen. But what you have to prepare for is if it does happen, to have a plan. And one of the things I'm considering as we're in this budget review is what does that really mean to our city? And we can talk about some other communications for our citizens to understand it better. But at the end of the day, let me just say, the state of Florida is going to get money. What we're really looking at with property taxes potentially going away is a loss of decision-making at the local level. Money will go to the state, and the state will, however, determine how they want to allocate to cities or other municipalities. And so the decision-making really comes from there because they're determining how much money we can get. It also does not mean that our citizens won't pay for something. We're going to pay for something. We just may have to adjust it. You can call it, you may not be able to call it a property tax, but we will probably have to come up with some kind of fee or some other allowable tax to offset those revenues. So the one message I want to get out right now with all the unknowns is this: nothing is free. We will be paying, it just may be called something differently, and potentially we will lose making decisions at our local level and have our state making them depending on disbursements of monies from the state. So that's really what I want to say. Now, that's for sure if this happens. You know, we have insurance in case of. And so while we may not know, and it may not happen today or tomorrow, we still need to do some reductions anyway just for efficiency. And Mayor, you are correct. I agree with you. We're not going to cut. We have to work. But we are definitely, hopefully, going to look at reducing in areas that can stand reducing. And I hope some areas will increase because some areas need some increases. And I think what we have the opportunity to do is find some efficiencies. So, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, and there's another area here. When we start talking about the impact fees, so, you know, we reenacted the impact fees, and Commissioner Bourne, the most senior up here, he probably talked about it more than me. And it just showed that percentage, 1.06% of the revenues are from impact fees. Well, we should have seen that go up a little bit because there's been more building going on and infrastructure projects and development going on. So I would expect for that to go up. Do you, Ms. Pierre, or have that just been the trend and that's where we are to date? That are those old numbers, or just it's not impacting that much as we thought?
That's a great point that you're making. I believe Mr. Agemo will be the expert as far as the timing of the impact fees. Based on my knowledge, the impact fees are charges for new developments to help pay for infrastructure improvements needed to grow roads, parks, fire services, and utilities. So I believe, this is just my professional opinion, that if you have a construction or new development, it's not until a certain point of the process. I don't know if it's at the end, or I don't believe it's at the beginning, because so many uncertainties can happen. So it must
Right.
be at the end of the conclusion of the construction development, that at that point, impact fees will become due.
I think Ms. West can kind of speak to that.
It's at the point of the issuance of the building permit.
Right.
Which is at
And-
the end, right?
And to that point, when we had the joint meeting with the county commission, you remember there was some discrepancies in reference to, let's just say the St. John's Avenue projects. Some of it's half city, half county. Have we discussed that any further? Because I haven't heard anything else about it, of how we were gonna divvy up the funds of the impact fees. And, when we start talking about budget and funds coming in, that's something that we need to actually have some kind of clarity on,
In the absence of an interlocal service boundary agreement, which we had proposed and was rejected by the county, the only path forward on splitting those capital costs is to do it on a case-by-case basis. For each new development, if it does impact a county roadway, we can enter into a cost share agreement with the county for that particular development in the absence of a general ISBA.
So are we considering those things when we approve these projects? I don't know if we have in the past. I don't really recall those conversations coming up, but we have to capture it, that at least have a method of capturing it during that process.
Ms. West, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way we calculate impact fees is governed by what's in our ordinances. Is that right?
Correct, which is governed by state statute.
All right, but again, have we tweaked those? Because remember, we were not even getting any impact fees. I mean, Commissioner Bourne, help me here if I'm wrong, because we reenacted it. I don't know if these conversations even came up, because if there was ordinance and then we actually suspended the impact fees, we bring them back, did we have that discussion so that we are recapturing the money? I mean, because we haven't had any further discussion. I don't know if we have changed the ordinance to reflect.
No, so the county only enacted their impact fee ordinance in the middle of last year.
Right.
So, no, we have not had any situation where we have that case-by-case analysis. Currently, 100% of the impact fees that we assess for development coming into the city keeps all 100% of those impact fees. It wasn't until the adoption of the county's ordinance where there came into some question about their.
They should get some.
Your share, so to
But
speak.
let me clarify that is not the city paying any portion of the county's impact fees. It would be the developer
Oh.
paying for that one fund of government building impact fees.
I got you, and that does clarify, but we can't expect with the building, with the development that's going on, that we should increase, that number should increase. You don't think so?
So in order to increase impact fees, and we are coming up due on this, we have to base that on basically a study done by an accounting firm, and that has to be done once every 5 years. So we're coming up on that point very soon. And once that study is complete, then only then can we raise our impact fees.
I don't think
unless
that's what
there-
he was saying.
I don't
I'm
think that's what
sorry.
he's
I think
saying.
he was
I
saying that we
misunderstood.
should see an increase in the impact fees coming in based on the development and the permitting that's been pulled in the city to
The-
date, that we should see more impact fee revenue coming in.
Absolutely.
Right,
I
because
think that's
we've
what
had
we
over
meant, right?
400 or 500, applications in for
Yeah.
development or what have you. And so I agree with Commissioner Jones as it relates to that. But again, also it depends on whenever they do the permitting process. If they're not complete with the construction, then there could be some of the lag.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's good that the study was due
Right.
soon, too. Go ahead, Commissioner
Yeah,
Davis.
impact fees are often not what they seem. So I just came from EMO 2 training as a new commissioner, so this is fresh. But nevertheless, here's my big takeaway from our discussion in class about impact fees, is remember, impact fees are only on what the new development is going to impact. It cannot go back and be used for, any existing maintenance issues or anything. So while it sounds like it's going to have some immediate impact, it's really for, in other words, if you're not planning to fix a broken road now, the impact fee is not going to be able to fix that broken road. It can only be charged to the extent that it's going to continue breaking the road. So broke is broke, but so and considering the impact fees only represent 1%. The other thing we have to be careful about with impact fees as well is because we're in a county that charges impact fees as well. And so, of course, it is the cost of doing business and allowing growth in our city. But again, it's not necessarily black and white. You got to weigh pros and cons of people coming in and the growth and what that looks like. And how we have a plan to address our aging infrastructure already, because again, that impact fee is only for a piece of impact from that new development. Clear as mud.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Pierre.
Okay, I ask everyone to move on to the revenue trends slide. And this is just a look back at the revenues for each of our funds, starting with the general fund from 2021 all the way to 2025. You can see the progression over the years. And this kind of helps you see the big picture for my visual folks. The airport is listed there, and we can see the gradual increase. The water fund, the golf, sanitation, ARPA funds, which are grants, and the Better Place, which are solely for capital improvements. And that gives you the overall picture, just of revenue in its entirety for each fund. Any questions on this slide?
Can you get it any smaller?
It's too
It's
small.
strange, huh?
It's too small.
It is.
Okay.
With glasses on, I can't see.
Did something happen with the 2022? Because it looked like maybe something in that formula that is showing 17 million, 8 something or what have you, but the bar graph is way exceeded. Let's see. And we got 30, is that 16 million or 36?
16? No, that's
Okay,
16.
okay, so it's right, okay.
16.
Yes,
Yeah.
16.
I was just double checking because I was using the best view I had with that. So, okay, you're right. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thought
You're
maybe
welcome.
something
We
was
can move
skewed.
to the next slide. So this is our fire assessment. So and these are just 4 options I'm presenting to you today regarding the first tier and second tier. We'll look at the first option on the top left, which is no rate change. the rates would remain the same. The $2.46 for Tier 1, and that would result in revenues of $1,869,597.54. And our second tier rate will be $125, and together it's about 2.3 million in revenues. Now, this fire assessment is to cover the fire budget, which is over 4 million, 4.5 million. So really and truly, the fire assessment covers half of the cost of the fire budget. So you can kind of compare and see that, how significant the fire assessment is. The next option on the top right are the rates discounted at 5%. So rather than the $2.46, it would be $2.34 for Tier 1, and that would result in 1.7 million in revenue, and Tier 2 at $118.75, and that total, that would be 2.2 million. It would result in some savings for our residents. However, it will put more pressure on the general fund because we can't cut our fire department. So it would result in a little over 100,000 that would put more pressure on the general fund to cover that gap. The bottom left is a discounted rate of 10%, which the rate for Tier 1 would be $2.21, Tier 2, $112.50. And that total is about 2.1 million. And then we have our rates discounted at 15%, which would result in Tier 1, $2.09, and Tier 2, $106.25. Now, we do have Mark Lawson available on Zoom. He, thankfully, special thanks to Mr. Lawson, he prepared this information that I'm presenting before you tonight. So if you have any questions, we do have someone that can speak more thoroughly on the fire assessment. But I want to highlight how important it is to receive direction from you all this evening. This would give the city ample time to advertise the rate. We would have to advertise for at least 20 days. And that would be in line with having a public hearing on May 28th. That's a regular commission meeting date. And just keep in mind that whatever rate you set tonight, it's not set in stone. Now, if you decide tonight we want to publicize a discounted at 5%, we could never increase or go above that. So I will just offer in my humble opinion, if you set it at a no rate change, then you always have room to discount it or decide we want to lower it at the budget hearing on May 28th. So nothing that you decide tonight means that it's a final decision, because we're in a budget workshop. We just want to be proactive and make sure the city has ample time to advertise within the 20 days and also have the budget hearing or the hearing for this fall on the May 28th commission meeting. And Mr. Lawson is available if you have questions or concerns. And I'm here as well.
Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Lawson?
No, I just want to make a comment.
Go ahead.
But I think most people issue with what the fire fee is as it relates to that and how it's assessed is it deals with the assessed value of the home as opposed to the actual. Just say, for instance, if they increase, you can have not done anything to your home, and the value goes up $15,000, $20,000. That's what the residents are feeling as it relates to taxes increase, even if you did nothing with, if it stayed flat. So that's what they're seeing, even with just regular residents. But so how, we have to put some kind of control mechanisms around that to be able to assist and aid in that regard. Because initially, the fire fee was put in place to help the city balance its budget. Because in the past, coming in 2015, prior to then, the city couldn't balance its budget. It had only $500,000 in reserves. And you can't operate a month with $500,000 in reserves. So if you had a situation, then the state would come in. And we was at 9.1478 millage rate. So you could not increase, if you increase the millage rate up to 10, once you get to 10, you had the state get involved. Right. So you only had limited amount of millage you can increase to try and maybe get in whatever improvements need to be made, whether it's infrastructure, which you could not get because based on your bond rating, we had crap bond rating prior to 2015. So we made some tough decisions during 2016, 2017 time period to be able to bring in this, to be able to get to where we are today. The initial thing was to try to just have it for a period of time to make sure that we got a healthy budget, built the reserves and different things of that nature so that we can operate efficiently and effectively and be where we are today because we had no infrastructure improvements prior to 2015. So what we have now is we're in a very, very good place. So what we were supposed to have been doing was backing down and not depending on fire fee to be our main source for revenue generation as it relates to where we are now. Because 59% of it goes to the fire department, what's generated to help pay for 59%. So what we've done, we've not went with what we originally promised the people. And so I'm not saying cut it out, but I think we need to figure out a pathway to be able to provide the relief that was initially put in place. And there's only one other person that's on this board during that time that was help implement the fire fee, but they that knew about what the fire fee did for the city. So that's why we're in the position that we're in, and people are continuously complaining about it because of how it certainly impact based on the tiers. So that's my comment.
And I don't disagree with you. I think, though, that we may have to start with this because the only way we're going to have any reduction is to find ways to reduce in the general fund budget, and we don't have all of that down pat yet. And I know what you're saying, too. It's also hard. The property appraiser sets the rates, property value rates. We don't. And so we can't really alter, we don't have control to alter those.
Right, but what I'm saying is what we've done over the years, we have learned how this rate, if you look at the amount that we receive in, and it has grown since that time period, so we have far exceeded what we really needed from the very beginning just to start balancing our budget and start building. And so what happened, we were spending faster or spending money faster than we were being more fiscally responsible. And so this is where we are now. We're in a better spot, but we need to do a lot better job with trying to look at our efficiencies. And hopefully the operational audit brings out a little bit more as it relates to that. What can we do as it relates to our budgeting? But I think over the years we've spent monies that not being fiscally responsible. That's all I have to say.
Can I just make one comment?
Absolutely.
All the points that you've made are completely valid. I just want to highlight that because there is a level of uncertainty with ad valorem taxes, we can't predict what is going to happen at the state level. And the conservative approach to remain fiscally sound is to make the right decisions preemptively, to make decisions not waiting to be reactive, but rather proactive. And it's just in my humble opinion that with this level of uncertainty, that we should consider that uncertainty that we have, because we're relying on the property taxes at this time. And on my previous slides, I highlighted the percentage that we're relying on, and that uncertainty that we don't know how much it could be reduced by. And rather than waiting for the legislator to do something, if we take proactive steps to ensure that we remain fiscally sound, then we'll be in a better position, and it'll put the city in a better position as we move forward, because we're a growing city. On one end, we want to appease every resident at every level, but on the other end, we want to accommodate the incoming families, incoming, whether they're seniors, young, old, whoever wants to come in, because we have property, land that is ripe and ready for development, and we want to welcome all the new folks coming in.
And it's-
Yes.
and I had one more.
I'm not saying stop, I want to hear from.
Yes,
Right,
that's
but
fine. Go ahead,
I had
Commissioner Boren,
one
more.
final comment, but thank you for your statement. But anyways, our ad valorem tax is where our base is. And so, again, if we're only getting in a little over 4 million on our ad valorem base and of 1.8 on our fire assessment, and then we have to start looking at how each department total budget, what that looks like. And an example would be if our police is 5-point-something million, our fire is 4.5 or 5. So one of the departments will eat up whatever you would get in ad valorem tax. So you have to start looking at ways to be able to, you're going to be forced to be fiscally responsible. You can't get blood from a turnip. So you got to start looking at some things in a very more realistic way. So that's what I'm saying.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments?
Well said, Commissioner.
Go ahead, Commissioner Davis. I was asking, I guess.
Jones, so I was asking because you guys had been here, but if you guys are on the same page. So, of course, I have some questions, and this is really to get feedback from the commission, because I tend to have a very sometimes oversimplistic way of looking at things, so I'm looking for a reality check. So when I think about the city's fire assessment and what the money is used for, we know that it is offsetting our general fund expenses, specifically for our fire services. So when I look at the fire assessment, and then I look at the ad valorem, or the millage rate, with the two, my initial thought is I would rather the fire assessment stay the same, and please hear me out because I really want to get some feedback, and that I am definitely in favor of at least a rolled back rate or looking at potentially decreasing our millage rate. My rationale is that, Commissioner Boren, to your point, I know why this was put in place based on what you just explained, and that was very helpful to me. My concern is that over those years, I don't see where the revenue has been replaced from other sources. So that's the one thing I want you to consider. And I get the plan was for it to be temporary, but I'm not sure how we can have a revenue source with the expectation that it will be temporary, and we're using those funds to let them go away when we haven't identified anything to replace them. So that's the simplified way I want to say that. And so that's my rationale for recommending that, especially tonight, that we have no rate change, because we do have the ability, once we start going through the budget, to reduce. If we see someplace, from my understanding, is that correct? So,
Yes,
okay.
that is correct.
Okay, so from the fire assessment, the other reason is because the fire assessment is for a specific cost and a specific service that we cannot reduce. That's my other rationale. Looking at the millage rate, that gives us funds to allocate to other departments. And I don't want to use fire and police as an example, or any of our first line safety departments, because to me, those are black and white. But the other city departments, and water and streets, I really want to use these other departments to look at where we may be able to reduce in other areas. And that, to me, supports what I'm thinking of looking at reducing that millage rate. So that's my rationale. I love to hear your feedback on that. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is I'm supportive at this point, from what I know, to have no rate change in the fire assessment, but to looking at reducing the millage rate for sure for a rollback rate, but if there's opportunity for that. I want to share before I turn this over is I was having this conversation with some other cities and someone from the Florida League of Cities, and regarding homes where someone bought a house and they've made no changes to the house and that the assessed value keeps going up. An analogy was made, and in the room, the person asked how many of us have cell phones, and we raised our hands. And he said, how many of you own your cell phones? Those who own them raised their hands. Now, in my case, I bought my cell phone like 6 years ago. What I want to say is this: I still pay a monthly charge to that provider where I bought the phone. And his question was, why do you pay that monthly fee? And that is because I need service. And that's the way I look at these taxes. Specifically, I want to talk about property taxes, because that's where people are saying they don't agree with this assessed value, which we don't get to set. The tax collector gets to put them out. But when I look at it, and I'm just talking about in black and white, not considering, because I do hear our constituents. They're saying these taxes are too high and we can't pay them. But when I look at it in black and white as a supply and demand, we still have to supply services. And the services don't cost what they cost when they bought the house. Now, I'm not by any means suggesting that I support the increase in the assessed value. But the cost goes up. The cost of delivering services goes up. And there is an option. And this may sound crass, but I want it in context of what I'm trying to explain. I'm not saying I agree with this, but everybody has a choice. We don't have to pay our cell phone bills every month, but after a few months, you won't be able to make a call. And people don't have to pay taxes. And again, I don't want to sound crass, but there are consequences to action. But I do know there's an expectation that when someone calls for services, they're expecting services. And the unfortunate reality is we're living in a time where things are really expensive. We still, in this city, from what I can see, we still deliver top-tier service with minimum revenues and trying to make the best decisions. So while I do want our constituents to get some relief, I want to also balance that with ensuring that our service providers for the city are, one, being fairly compensated and have the resources they need to deliver the expected service. And that's what makes our job hard, right? Because we're trying to balance those things. So again, I see looking at the millage rate reduction, especially at this point in our discussions tonight, to say no rate change. But I would love to hear feedback on my oversimplified explanation.
And that was my statement at the beginning, that we start with the no rate change. Again, we have the flexibility to do something differently going forward, but I think we need to really analyze this budget, see what cost savings we can obtain, and talk about the millage rate. We've got to do all those things, but to lower this now, I think could be detrimental to the city. I think we have to stay at the no rate change until we have gone through and provided more information to establish where we can make reductions.
And Mayor, if I may, I've sat
Commissioner
back.
Campbell, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I do want to make the statement in agreement with actually Commissioner Bourne, because I was there at the initiation of the fire fee. But I also want to commend the analogy that Commissioner Davis just brought forth, because anything that a lot of times when we sit on the dais and we have these conversations, it's kind of hard to explain the process or how things are to our constituents. And I think Commissioner Davis did a phenomenal job with the summarization that she did. But I am in agreement with making sure that at this moment we do not change and stay at a no rate and until we are able to iron through this budget as a whole.
My turn?
Go ahead, your turn.
Okay, well, I see both sides of it, but I must go back to the promises that were made to the constituents, okay? We did make a promise that we would come back and adjust this. Matter of fact, my campaign was about trying to do something with this fire assessment fee. And understand that majority of the people that have more than one property actually have to pay on all properties. So it's not like you homestead it. It's all properties you're paying. With the exceptions of not-for-profit, 501(c)(3)s, they don't have to pay. In churches, okay, which in the city of Palaca, you have a religious institution on almost every other corner, okay? So they use fire department services just like a homeowner. And I think that unless everyone is taking their fair share, that's going to hurt us. So we haven't looked into that. And that's the area that we promised to look into. But again, we start talking about, we hold on, we don't want to knee-jerk reaction and stuff. But we keep holding on until we do absolutely nothing. And we haven't done anything. Last year, when we came to these same talks, we waited too late, and we wasn't able to do anything. So we can't keep having those excuses of why we're not moving forward and being proactive in getting this fee rolled back to at least give people a reprieve. Give us, I'm including myself, because let me tell you, we get city taxes, county taxes, school district,
Water management.
the water, man, all that stuff. Man, our taxes have gone up astronomically. Matter of fact, and then we talked about what the property appraiser does, not to knock them for their job. However, if you go get a loan on your house, it's only worth minimum money. But your taxes shows that your house have so much equity in it, and it's ridiculous. It's almost like you're actually asking, do the people, you said for services, we have to pay for services. But are our services going to be affordable? You know, are they affordable services? Do the people have the ability to pay these taxes? Are they going to be priced out? And this is a trend seem like going upwards to pricing people out of their homes and or their property. I think all the conversation is necessary, but what about the promises that we've made? I think we really should kind of try to keep those promises that were made, and it was a selling point going in that we could adjust this, but there have not been an adjustment yet, Commissioner Campbell. So Commissioner Campbell and Commissioner Bourne was on this dais. I wasn't, but that's one of the things that I fought about, and I said I would get up here, and this is one of the things that I want to see happen, and that affects everybody, every homeowner, or property owner, not just a homeowner, property owner. So I'm adamant about doing something, not sitting on my hands on this one. We really need to, it's not saying that we're going to be fiscally responsible by doing something. We're not being fiscally responsible by not doing anything. And we know the importance of this fire assessment fee, but are we going to do maybe the unpopular thing and say, you know what? Maybe the not-for-profits have to have a bigger responsibility. Maybe these churches have to chip in as well to help these pretty fire trucks and things that's afforded to us because of this fee. I think everybody has to chip in. So we got to have these conversations. We got to make the adjustments. Now, what degree? I don't know yet. We may run the numbers tonight, but we can't sit on our hands. We got to do something.
Commissioner Campbell has his hand raised.
Commissioner Campbell?
I have my hand raised because I'm not in a disagreement with Commissioner Jones by any stretch of the imagination, but I think this is one of the reasons why we anticipated last year with starting this process a little bit earlier so that we do not feel rushed. And again, I was on the commission when we had this brought to the commission initially. However, I do believe in order for us to be a little bit mindful of a possible reduction is that at this moment we put ourselves in a position not be able to make the change, but be in a position so that we can really go through this process and really come to a conclusion as it come to a conclusion versus putting ourselves in a situation where we can't move. So I'm not in disagreement at all. However, I do believe at this moment it will be wise for this commission to keep it where it is, and then let's work actively to reduce the fee holistically. But at this moment, putting ourselves in a position to reduce it where we can't go back, that's kind of doing harm. But I'm not in disagreement with trying to lower it. But at this moment, in order for us to move forward, I think that we do need to keep it to where it is as of now, so that we can have active conversation. And again, I would stretch the thing of us starting this process earlier, so that we did not feel constraint like we did last budget season.
I agree. Go ahead, Commissioner Borum.
Right. And so to Commissioner Jones' point, as it relates to the various people who could be exempted from property taxes, and there's a number. I mean, we have people who are super seniors. You got various seniors. You got people who are, veterans. A number of people you have, and we did the churches or 501c3 churches. We did them at 50% as opposed to 100%. So that's a little bit of context as it relates to where some additional revenue, what we could have had at the time when we did it, we didn't do it at 100%. So these are various things. I know we're not going to certainly go out and start taking away exemption, because those are state mandated, which allows for people to be able to have those exemptions, whether you're a super senior, whether you're a veteran who served in the military, what have you. So, but there's numerous other exemptions that we have that could be revenue generators that we are not capturing. And again, we do have quite a few institutions across our city. I mean, if you look at our 2.3 by 3 point something square feet, square 6-7 square mile city, we have 64 plus institutions across our city, and some own multiple properties. And so that means every time a 501c3 takes purchased properties, those come off the tax roll. So we need to really be mindful as it relates to how revenue can continue to, we continue to lose revenue based on the structure that we have in place as it relates to that. Because I remember we had a church just right here in the South Historic District. purchased a property, it was a rental property, and it was worth pretty good monies, but in they had renters there or whatever at the time. They could have used that for revenue generation, but instead, I think they demolished the location, and it's just blank space now. So that's just a little bit of context of a number of different things that we've lost revenue over the years based on how some 501c3s went out and captured properties, and some of them own multiple properties, 18 and 20, some of them.
And I think that Commissioner Jones, when we were talking about this, was referring to 501c3s and churches in regards to the fire assessment fee, not to exemptions, homestead exemptions, that, yes, that's.
Well, I'm just giving you additional things
I'm
that
just saying they're
help
two
you lose.
separate things.
But to Commissioner Jones' point, he's spot on where they do use, everybody who goes there, they use the roads. If you got an emergency in these institutions, fire, police are responding. So yes, so the services are used, but we're only charging at 50%. That's what I'm, that's
No,
what
and
my
I agree,
point.
and I think we need to have a discussion about whether 50% sufficient or not for the services they receive that are the same as everybody else who are paying 100%.
Right, that was just a little context.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
I'm in line with what Commissioner Campbell said. Tonight, what I'm saying is tonight, I believe we should not have any rate change on the fire assessment. And I do agree with the other commissioners that we will look at the ability to lower it as we're looking at the budget. So I definitely want to say that. The other thing I want to say is I want to make sure we don't mix too many things at one point, because we're talking about generating additional revenue from, potentially, is what I'm hearing, from the fire assessment by having everyone pay their fair share, which is separate and may even support reducing if we can increase those giving. So I hear you, and I am definitely open to that. But I just want to make sure tonight that we can give Ms. Pierre direction on what she can do to create a draft budget by knowing that information. So what I'm saying is tonight, I'm recommending no rate change. But as we continue in our workshops to look at what it would take, following up with Ms. West to see what it would take for people to pay their fair share, and if we have an option to reduce. I had another point. I think that's it for now, Mayor. I may come back because I had another point, but I lost it. So that was a thing to separate and just for the recommendation tonight. But I do hear the commissioners, and I do agree. Let's look for an opportunity to reduce. Oh, I know what my other point was. You know, there's a saying, all things being equal, right? And Commissioner Borum, what year did this fire assessment start? I don't.
About 2017.
Okay, 2017. So here we are 9 years later. So I don't want, we do have a burden as commissioners to make the right decision for our constituents. But we don't get to do that in isolation either. We got to look at this country. We have to look at our county. So all things being equal, I believe that when the commission determined that we would have a fire assessment with a goal of it being temporary and going away once the city recovered some revenues, that makes sense. But we know that all things are no longer equal today. And so I'm going to ask us, as we continue to do research and prepare to have these discussions and create a budget, that we do it in a manner that is consistent, unfortunately, with where we are, where everything is too high. Grocery is high, but does that mean that the city should reduce taxes to give an offset because people can't buy groceries and pay taxes? But again, I do want our citizens to have relief, but we have to do what's reasonable in this current climate. The other thing we have to do is ensure that as we are looking to reduce our expenses, there are some things that cannot be reduced. There are some fixed costs. And there are some standards that we have set that we cannot reduce. And one of those, in my opinion, is services to our citizens for safety and protection. There are some other areas, but I do want to say that we cannot, in this moment, in this time, fix the woes of our country or our state. We can work within it for the best decisions for our citizens, but that burden, I believe, is even greater because all things are not the same as they were in 2017, and we don't control the ability to make a decision where we reduce, costs for our citizens, because we still have the old hymn, a charge to keep we have, and a service to provide for the safety of our citizens in our city. So just want us to consider that and go do that research and understand what's a reasonable reduction if we go that route. But we do have to consider the larger system that we work within.
And because this is a workshop, I don't know that we're taking a vote on, but the recommendation, should we be taking a vote on the recommendation for the fire? No. So for the fire assessment option, I think I heard, and Commissioner Campbell, you also say that at this moment, until we get further into this budget workshop, that you are in favor of a no rate change at this time. And I have expressed that as well as Commissioner Davis. So I think going forward for direction's sake, unless there's strong opposition, we're going to keep it at no rate change.
Hold
and
it.
we have to really work at it. Go ahead.
Because that's not it. It is a discussion. However, I think direction should be more of this.
Go ahead.
And this is what everybody said collectively. Go back. Bring comparisons. If we were to recapture at 100% from the 501(c)(3)s, the religious institutions at 100%, how would that impact us if we drop it 5%, reduce by 5%, 10%, 20%, what have you? And that would give us another snapshot so we can have data in front of us to make the informed decision. Because if we just say, no, we're not going to do it, or we're not in favor right now, we don't really have all the facts in front of us. So I would rather for finance to go back, put those factors in, and then bring it back to us, again, for discussion at a date certain, because we can't keep putting it on the back burner. The conversation has to happen. I agree, trends change, things change, but we do also have a responsibility to take care of the people in the business of the city. So we do have that. So with that being said, I think that encompasses everything that everyone said, not making that decision tonight, but here in the near future, because what I don't want to happen is we come back and say, well, it's too late. We didn't do what we're supposed to do. So that's the direction that I would like to give from the dais. And I think that encompasses what everybody pretty much said, but we'll have those other facts in there. Go ahead.
Commissioner Davis.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead, Commissioner.
Commissioner Jones, just want to clarify, we have to give direction tonight for
Right.
the finance director to move on. We
her
got
finish.
to give, we
Well-
have to give some direction tonight. We're not locked into the direction, but it is for her to move forward at this point in her process. But we have the ability to come back, and I agree what you asked for.
Asking for that
That
data.
will help us determine if we can reduce this. We don't have to determine reduction tonight because we don't have all the information. So I'm agreeing with what you're saying, but we do have to give direction to Ms. Pierre for her to move forward to get to the next budget workshop.
And that's what
Are
I
we
was
on the same
suggesting.
page? I just
Yeah.
wanna
Yeah,
make sure.
that is the suggestion. So
Okay, I
this
heard,
is
I
this
thought
is
I,
not this is not all things considered right here. So these numbers, just like I just said,
No.
were 5%, but it's not the 5% that we could recapture. Am I not-
agreed. I think,
And that's the second part of it, for that data to return to us for that information, to
Yeah.
have that discussion about whether we can
Well-
offset the cost by
Yeah.
having a higher rate for certain.
and I want to make sure, Commissioner Jones, that you hear what I'm saying.
I do, but what's in front of us is only
No,
four
no,
options.
no, no,
right?
no.
No, no, no.
What I'm saying, it has nothing to do with this.
Okay.
That's why I don't know that you're hearing.
Okay, so you said to move
Tonight,
forward.
tonight, we need to give Ms. Pierre direction whether we want her to come back with information based on a 5% discount, 10% discount, 15%. What I'm saying is that we're premature. We can't do that now. She can move forward. She has to have, this is an input to something she has to have tonight. The reason I heard that we're recommending no rate change is because we can always go down, which it sounds like our goal may be to do that. We cannot do that tonight.
But we can't go up, should we choose a
Correct.
lesser
Yeah,
rate
if we
now
say
or as a
5,
recommendation,
correct.
we can't go back up.
That's correct.
So we're saying no rate change, but agreeing with you that also we're
Yes.
asking Ms. Pierre to bring back information about how that would change if certain organizations, 501c3s, were paying a larger share, whether it's 75% or 100%, whatever those percentages are. What that would look like in terms of the whole.
Correct.
So.
And Ms. Pierre, you're saying that we cannot go down once if tonight we say we want you to go forward at a 15% rate discount. And you add those numbers in and all things considered, you say we couldn't go back and say, well, 15% was too much. We want to go back to 5?
Correct.
You said we could not do that?
That's
Correct.
Okay.
And I,
That's why we're suggesting the no rate change till we have more data to make a more informed decision
and I
for
have,
tonight's purposes.
and Mr. Lawson is on the line. He can speak to the timeline if you would like, if that is the will of the commission. If you'd like to hear from him, he can
Would you
speak on the
like to hear from
timeline.
Mr. Okay. Mr.
If I may,
Lawson,
I
can
don't
you
think
give us
there's
the
a-
timeline, please? Mr. Lawson? Good evening.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Could you give us the
Great.
timeline for the process, please?
No, I've been listening all along. The answer to your question is, if you direct the staff to prepare for the public hearing and to advertise at the current rates, you can always drop them. If you were to decide tonight to go to a 15% less rate and you advertise, you would have to re-advertise. And that would be a waste of time and energy and attention to the public. So my recommendation after listening to you is go ahead, publish for your hearing in late May, use the no rate change. And even at that hearing, if you adopt the no rate change, you still have the ability later in the summer to reduce it without having any public hearing. You can always go down, you can't go up. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. Do you have a question, Commissioner Jones? Go ahead.
You could go down, but we couldn't increase it.
In other words, if you said you have your hearing at May 28th and you say we're going to adopt our rates like we normally do, and we don't have to certify our roll until late August, early September. In the meantime, when you do your budget, you know how much money you have available. If you decide when you do your budget that you're going to lower the fire assessment rate, you do so. You do that summarily. You're done with the public hearing process, and everybody gets a lowered assessment rate. But when you do that as an informed commission, and that money that you take out of your coffers from the fire assessment will have to be made up through the monies that you get from your other legally available funds. That gives you more flexibility. To my chagrin, and I'm trying to help all my clients, everybody tries to do it backwards. They do their budget and then they do their assessment. You should do your assessment first and then figure out what to do with your budget. And that's what we're trying to help you do.
Thank you.
I think I was saying it correctly, but we're gonna see. Because what I'm saying is, start out, we can always go down. We won't be able to go up. So if we keep it as it is right now, we couldn't later go up.
Correct.
That's right. But if you keep it like it is now, by law, you have to do a mailed notice. If you go above those rates, you're not going to do a mailed notice. That's too expensive. So you're doing published notice. So you just publish at what you've done over these years. And then when you do your budget, you can always go down from that number, which is
Correct. So we can reduce it.
What you call it down is up.
Let me ask this question.
I'm sorry.
Let me ask
So we could always reduce it,
Campbell's
but if we
talking.
take the reduced rate now, we can't go back up to 10 or 5%.
Can I ask him one question about exemptions? Mr. Lawson, did you hear the direction about the exemptions? Possibly, instead of the 50% exemption, you're considering, this is for the
Churches, not
the churches,
501c3s.
the 501c3s, instead of a 50% exemption, it would be, they would be paying the full.
Or 75, a higher rate, I guess it's.
Well, now,
higher.
in order to manufacture flexibility for the commission, when we can adjust the published ad that goes out and simply put in that published ad. I will have to go back 10 years and read how we notified that exemption. If the exemption was done as a part of your adoption of your resolution, as opposed to your mailed notices, then you're free to do whatever you want. But I'll have to go back, and I don't have 10 years of knowledge in my head that I can remember on that particular issue. But we will go out and find out if you have the ability to do it. So here's my question to you. If we can, in your published notice, put a paragraph in that says, and by the way, the commission is considering charging all institutions the full amount this year, and leave it at that. I'd write it correctly so there is proper notice. If the documents that we originally did for you didn't put it in the mailed notice, which I don't think it did. I think we did this at the dais, but I'm not sure. Then you'll be able to do that. If you did put it in the mailed notice required by law, that'll be more problematic, and we would have to notify those property owners by U.S. mail. I can get that answer to you fairly quickly, but if you would give direction to explore adjusting the institutional amounts and to get an answer to that, we can craft a notice in the publication that does it. I wouldn't want to do that by mailed notice. I think that just would be attract the wrong type of attention to all this. And if you'll just have to let me confer with your interim manager and or the mayor and or Jane, we'll find the best way to do that. We can do that pretty quickly.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Campbell?
I actually was going to ask the same question because I think I understood what Commissioner Jones was trying to paint, but Ms. Pierre, she asked it in a way that brought the clarity that I felt that was needed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
It's a pleasure.
Okay.
So that's the direction. That's what we want
Thank
to
you.
do.
Okay, noted. We will keep the rate the same, and that will be advertised, and he'll add a paragraph. He'll confirm it, but more than likely, it'll be a paragraph stating the commission is considering 501c3 and nonprofit organizations
Yeah, we're
may.
considering other entities that may now be paying less than, homeowners, property owners.
Then that should get people to the next
Yeah,
workshop.
hey, that'd be good.
And that's good. We want participation. That is good.
Okay, that was exciting. Thank you very much for the direction.
Well, if that's exciting.
I appreciate the next slide is about other sources of revenue. I like this part more.
My apologies. This is Mark.
Yes.
I would like to continue on with my evening. I won't stay on the call unless you
Okay.
request that I do.
I think we're all set. Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
All right, you all are terrific. Good night.
Good night. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Other sources of revenues, as we discuss the concerns regarding ad valorem taxes and the uncertainty that's there, we also want to consider what other forms of revenue can the city consider to supplement a potential loss of revenues in ad valorem taxes. At the top of the list, we have fair market value, rentals, leased properties. I didn't mention earlier, but there was an email from one of our department heads with a list of some of the leased properties that he was aware of. So there's a potential there to assess the list of properties. I believe Mr. Agemo presented a list of all the properties owned by the city. So we could have an assessment done to see if there's a potential to lease the land. Also, the second point, reviewing existing service charges that have not been adjusted in previous years to determine whether updates are warranted. So that would be in our Appendix A. And if this is something that the commission is willing to consider, then that would be, it would be great to have that understanding so that when the department heads go into their budgets, they also consider the fees that maybe have not been increased over the last few years. So they can incorporate consumer price index, inflation rates, to just make sure that we have cost recovery. We're providing a service, but making sure we're getting the recovery back from the service being provided, or the cost is supplemented. Our third point is update cost recovery for permits, inspections, building, zoning, right-of-way, business tax receipts. This is more along the lines of the planning area. If this is something you're willing to consider, then he would go back and assess the permits, inspections, and also this would touch fire as well, because they also perform inspections. Our fourth point here is the parking fees, fines in the downtown or event districts. Consider progressive fine schedules and technology for collection. So this would, I know this is a hot topic in the city, but if you look at other cities, if I go to the wonderful
I think
city
it's a
of
good
Palaca.
idea. I don't know if we might be on the
Nah.
premature side. Honestly, I don't see, there's so much parking available that it's going to be hard pressed to get people to pay.
Exactly.
right side of the road.
I know, that would be a start.
Can we start there?
Can we stop tagging those people and eventually fining? That drives me crazy. We're just teasing now.
Yeah, I want small town USA. That's what they do in small town USA.
No,
We have,
Park where you want to park.
and maybe just with events, we have a number of local events where we could consider allocating spaces when there's a large event and saying, okay, this is the charge to park here. Just a consideration, not,
If you wanna attract people here, you want people to stop coming
I
and
don't
start
think we're
doing that.
there yet. I think it's not a bad idea for the future. I think it's an idea for the future. I just don't think we're quite there yet.
I got one that need to be on here. Do we do golf cart registrations? For people who, we're putting 8-foot sidewalks through the city, so people are gonna be, Golf cart registration? I think that is something that we can look into. That's revenue, I mean, others, we start talking about, we wanna be like other cities. Other cities do that. So, and then they are growing popular. You see them more and more. So, let's not wait till it come. Let's get ahead of these things. It's just a conversation.
Does anyone,
I agree with you on possibly looking at the golf cart communities and looking at the registration of the golf carts. However, I just didn't want it to go past that because we have the new ADA sidewalks, that they will be to utilize the sidewalks. We would then have to look at, as we already have in place, the bike lanes to be something similar for the golf cart.
I have mixed
I'm glad you
feelings.
mentioned that. I was downtown the other day and I happened to run into the mayor. And actually, someone was riding one of those e-bikes down there, and I saw an accident almost happen. Now, this is to you, Chief. We don't want to ride on the sidewalk. But if you, in fact, the way downtown is kind of constructed with our parking, you could have a motorist open their door to their car. There's no bike lane, so most people kind of like just ride right beside the cars. And that's a hazard in itself. So what are our plans for that? I mean, I remember, what are our plans to kind of curb that? Before it happens, I mean, I'm quite sure that.
We'll let Chief Shaw speak to it quickly, but we're
And we have
getting off
bump outs
track
too.
here.
I know, don't get me with out of order, but, don't get me with that. But it is something to kind of consider.
Yeah.
What,
Because they're going to actually be riding with traffic. That's the way it's going to be once the bike lanes are in the street. They will be riding with, not bike lanes, they'll be riding with traffic. There won't be bike lanes because there is no room. Yes.
For the downtown area, but we are exploring different things that we can do with ordinances referring to e-bikes. E-bikes brings a much more, a larger safety issue, but if you remember, we had these same safety issues with regular bikes as well. So we are exploring, and we do realize with the e-bikes come increased speed and increased danger. But there's things that we are facing with restrictions that everybody around the state is looking at. So we hope to be able to have something with you soon. Downtown is implementing something with the effect to the streetscapes that may help out a little bit. But again, monitoring it right now to see what we can do to assist further throughout the city.
And the state legislature has passed, and it kicks in on July 1st, correct?
Yes,
The
I
statute.
should also note, we already have an ordinance on the books, section 70-32, that it is already unlawful for anyone to bike on public sidewalks. So that already exists from St. John's Avenue from First
Well-
Street to 11th Street and in Riverfront Park.
so just downtown? You can't ride the bicycle on the sidewalk at the river park?
So this is the exact description of where it's impermissible. On any public walkways on St. John's Avenue from First Street to 11th Street and in the Riverfront Park and the city dock parking area. And
These
so
things
violations of-
publicized?
I'm sorry?
Are these things publicized? Just a question.
This has been an ordinance on the books for quite some time.
No, I get that, but is it are there signs that state those things?
People don't know that.
No, sir.
I didn't know it.
There are not signs, and up until you guys passed this ordinance recently, the municipal civil infraction ordinance, we weren't able to enforce that. So now we do have the ability to enforce that, and we can work on public outreach. To make people aware.
Education, yeah. That's coming. But what we were saying is, once everything is done, people will be riding in the street on their bikes with traffic, which is what you do in a lot of other cities, as somebody who's cycled in other cities. Go ahead, but we need to get back to the budget, back to poor Michelle.
That's something gonna come back, and I guarantee you, we'll be dealing with
No,
that.
we need to talk about it, but it's a budget workshop. Yeah, it is a budget workshop. Go ahead, Ms. Pierre, sorry.
No problem. So the fifth item, lease, sell underutilized property, surface lots, small parcels, consider ground leases for reoccurring revenue. Just for example, if we have a parcel that is a good amount of, a size enough to have, I don't know, solicit hot air balloon rides, or, I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
Something that would produce, allow income, you know, a steady flow of income. I just like hot air balloon rides, so that's what came to mind, but it could be anything. I mean, it could be multiple things. So service level realignment is another thing you could consider. I know we have a lot of landscape, we have a lot of properties here, so how can we do this efficiently and also reduce the costs associated? I mean, it just says mowing, but that's just one area. And I put special event support, meaning if there are other ways where we can support a special event and charge more, then let's consider it. And also considering hours of operation are the hours of operation adding value to the community? Just some things to consider for you all. And if this is something that you're interested in, then we could ask our department heads to include that in their budget preparation. That's
fine.
the goal
That's fine,
here.
yep, that's fine. We're
And
looking for any suggestions or thoughts.
Like using the fire trucks to water the trees downtown
They
and
didn't use the fire.
something like, I said, we can. Come up with a different solution than paying the lawn people. That's, hey, you gotta be innovative. You gotta think outside the box sometimes.
Okay,
well said, sir. Well said.
thank you.
I'm definitely
Go ahead.
interested.
And this is,
One at a
is,
time. Go ahead,
oh,
Commissioner
sorry.
Davis. I'm sorry, I thought I heard Commissioner Campbell.
Commissioner Campbell.
Commissioner
Oh,
Campbell?
I really like the idea about the special events because sometimes I honestly think when we have the applications become before us that we kind of shortchanged ourselves with regards to special events and the fees that are implemented with the special events. Because a lot of times the things that come before us are quote unquote, they do to me, they utilize the wrong class because a lot of them are initial or inaugural events that are not necessarily annual. And sometimes I just feel that we shortchange ourselves. So I'm definitely interested in seeing if that's a way that we will be able to increase revenue with regards to special events because we have quite a bit of special events that come through the city and we should be able to reap the benefits of that.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
I'm gonna read this out loud, because I do agree. Release garbage collection to one time per week. Save some money and maybe sweep the streets the other time. Okay,
I remember he
okay.
was opposed to it
So
previously.
that's one.
I'll talk to Joe. Yep.
Okay.
You gotta think about the
I'm
public
just-
housing
Just suggestions, just suggestions,
Yeah,
just
I know.
suggestions.
Or pay a
general.
higher fee if you want it more than
General.
once a week.
or maybe different areas. Then
Yes,
it might work. that
correct,
way.
correct. Just
We're
general.
suggesting be creative.
But I have
You're
a
right.
question for, this is probably for, Ms. West. Is my understanding that, if we have a property with, code compliance, oh, no, I'm sorry, not code compliance. But if a property has a tax issue and the taxes aren't paid on that property and, if someone doesn't pay the property taxes, can the county, when does property revert to the county? And that may be something you got to take offline. And I had it and I lost it when I started talking about the trash.
That's through the tax collector's office. It goes to a tax deed sale and they go up for auction.
Correct. And if nobody buys it at the auction, or nobody buys it, my understanding, and this is the part I want to ask you about to check into, my understanding, based on some information I heard, is that that property then reverts to the county, even though it is the city's property in the city. We can get the property, but we have to request it back. Is that something you can look into? I'm not asking
Yes,
for
I
clarification now.
will discuss with you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So if so, I want to see if we got some property that the county don't know, and the county may not know, and that's really what I'm just asking, but if that's something you can look into, and I will send you an email with the proper question. I'm
Okay.
losing focus.
Thank you, Ms. Here. Anything else? Because we're jumping.
My favorite, I saved the favorite or the best for last. Leveraging technology, software to increase efficiencies. If you are open to not accepting cash payments and considering accepting payments online, that would help create efficiencies. We have a lot of homeowners that are outside of the city of Palaca that don't live here, can't come here locally, but they can, rather than mailing a check and the check possibly being lost in the mail, if you're willing to consider that, like no longer accepting cash and allowing folks to make payments online or via credit card, then I would include in the finance budget a possible consideration for software that would accommodate that purpose.
I agree, and I also, as I recall, when we met with the Ameris Bank, they are also willing to train finance staff and et cetera on a program to pay vendors electronically versus by check. So I think those are all things we can do to move forward and to minimize costs rather than cutting checks for everything. So I agree. I think we have to look into all of those possible
Yeah.
options.
And another example is if the finance department could use all the modules in the software that we already have, that could probably consolidate budget preparation and some other activities. That's another example. Right, Ms. Fier? And
Absolutely.
then our staff can go home at night and come back
And
the
not
next
have to be
morning
here all
refreshed.
weekend. Yeah,
go
not be
home
here
at
all
night.
weekend as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
In any other department that applies to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so just so that it's clear for us and the department heads, you're in alignment with all the items presented, and each department head should consider what is presented on the slide.
Yeah.
Yes.
We
Okay.
want to move? Yes, we
And,
want.
and Mayor, may I, again, the city's strategic plan should be driving our budgeting as well, right? So we have this comp plan, we have a strategic plan, and I have some questions for the acting city manager about that later. But that's what we should be focused on in our budget as the priorities, what we've planned for and not randoms. So I just want to put that out there as well. So there's an opportunity to provide that strategic plan, so departments and commissioners and everyone who has a say in planning for the budget, that could help us focus, you know. So, yeah.
It is also helpful when we try to explain to constituents why
Yes.
we're going in a particular direction.
Yes.
If we have a plan that we're following and implementing.
One more question, depending on where we're going next. In the reports, the budget reports that we're using to review the recommendations or get to the draft, is when we're comparing 2025 to 2026, we have the 2025 budget in the column. The next column is 2025 revenues year-to-date. And it matches, it's a March date. What would be very helpful is for that to be the 2025 year-to-date, so we can see what the trend is for collecting actual revenues versus what we budgeted for. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Or is this just mislabeled?
The revenue part, because I'm listing revenues and expenditures, it's year-to-date actuals.
Yes.
That's a better word. I could change the rev
So
to
you
actuals. It's actual year-to-date from the beginning of the year. This is 2025.
Column D, column
Column
D.
D, right.
But you
That-
see what it's labeled?
Right.
What is it labeled?
It's labeled 2025 REV underscore year-to-date, March 2025.
So the fiscal year ends, I would have expected that to say 9/30. Am
you
I
wanna
missing
see the-
something?
Well, you're not missing.
Am
no,
I
you're not.
misunderstanding? Yes, I'm
Well,
misunderstanding. Okay, so the label is misleading.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
What she's saying is as the actuals come in for expenditures within that column, it's showing to date. So that would be, if you're saying to date, it would be April.
Oh, I'm
of
sorry.
28, 29.
Wrong year. This is where we are now. I'm sorry, I meant the previous year. I'm just, and I think you might have given, so, and tell me if this is off base. What I'm really trying to see, we have a budgeted amount, and what I'm really interested in understanding is for maybe the past 3 years, you know how in the presentation you gave us that great information? Oh, maybe I got it. The revenue trend analysis is really what I'm asking for.
That's over.
So, but what I'm asking is a comparison to what we budgeted, what we thought we would get, and what we actually got.
Received, yeah.
Okay. In a
Does that
graph.
make sense?
Yes.
Because what that helps to do, and I'm thinking is, what we're budgeting for the upcoming year, if we're budgeting some pie in the sky number or based on what we did the prior year, let's make it make sense. If we've only been receiving approximately 90 or 95% of budgeted amounts,
To reflect
Let's
that.
reflect that going forward. Let's make it make sense.
I agree.
Does
I
that-
agree. I just want you to understand also, or consider that whenever you're preparing a budget, there's estimation involved in it.
Oh, no,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
agreed.
Because you don't always know
No,
exactly how much.
I'm with you. What I'm saying, but there have been some trends in the city of Palatka over the past 5 years of how much money you collect, a percentage versus how much you expected. And what I'm saying is, I'd rather have a more educated guess based on prior trends. Yeah, no, it's not accurate, but
It's more than expecting a significant revenue that we probably aren't going to obtain.
yeah, because we got
I
some
think A more
probabilities
realistic
based
number
on the
to work
past.
off of, based on the past.
It's just like you said, let's assume that on a worst-case scenario, we're only going to get 86% of tax revenue. Because that's how much we've been collecting. We're not getting 100%. I'm asking for the same thing, but in our budget versus actual revenue. You're already doing, I'm asking another category as usual.
Okay.
Sorry. And we can talk more offline if you need clarification. It's not difficult. I just want to make sure. We can talk later and make it make sense.
I believe I understood what you
Okay.
meant.
Thank you. Is there anything else, anybody? Commissioner Campbell? Anybody else? Do you have anything else, Ms. Pia?
So there's another slide here for the transfer in and out memo and the cash forward balance memo. And I put it in a memo format just to give you as much information and help to close the knowledge gap and make sure everyone understood what those transfers represented. There's also included a chart. I know it's kind of small, please forgive me, but this shows if you follow the lettering, A matches with A, and it
Where are
just
you?
compares.
Here.
This would be, I don't have this sheet. This is it.
Yeah, but what number?
So it's
what
page
reference?
15.
Okay.
At the very beginning, after you get through, yes, at the very beginning of the presentation, right after the fees for parking, and then this stops, and it's like the next page after that, right here. Did
So you
find it?
notice that this is balanced. On one side, you have the revenues or types of revenues that would fall under the transfer contribution reimbursement category on the left, and then on the right, these will be considered expense categories that are the other, okay, with every transfer, right, there's a fund that's receiving money, there's a fund that is paying money to another fund. So the expense would be the fund that is. I triggered Siri or Google or
Chat
something.
G.
Good information.
Okay, 1 minute, let's wait until it stops. Yay, okay, go ahead, sorry.
That was a first. Okay, so. Oh, it's Eddie's phone. Okay. Okay, the transfers. So on the left side, this represents the revenues, the funds that are receiving, on the receiving side, receiving the transfer, and then the other side, expenses, represent money going out of a fund, going into another fund, and that would be an expense for that fund. So we can look at, let's say, there's a lot of discussion about reimbursements, right? So reimbursement from, let's see, one of these admin expenses. So if you look at on your expense side, down towards the bottom of the list, there's a number of those that are named reimbursement general. What that represents is you have employees, all the employees' payroll is coming out of the administrators, myself, HR, city attorney, coming out of the general fund. But we service every single fund. we provide a service to them. From a finance perspective, we're doing the financials for the airport, for water, for all of the funds. And those expenses represent the services that we provide. It's a shared service among the funds. It's based on the costs each year. It's not something that we just decide willy-nilly. It's based on actual costs that each fund or service that each fund is receiving from administrators, if that makes sense. Okay.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So to that point, thank you for that clarification. So let me make sure I understand. For example, I believe we had a question in a prior meeting as to the CRA, for example. We were asking about some transfers in the CRA, and I believe at the time, Ms. Carter responded that it's for the service provider. That's what you're explaining, that's why funds are being transferred. So my question is, and my understanding is that there's a way to determine how much that should be. I did read that that is permissible. It's also an acceptable practice. But the thing that's important when you're doing that is to ensure, for example, as a finance director, you are 100% employed for the city. If you're using 80% of your time for the city business, general business, and you're using like 10% for CRA and 10% for airport and 10% for that, shouldn't the transfer amount reflect the percentage of time that you're dedicating to that area? If so, that information needs to be consistent. I guess what I'm not understanding is, I thought I heard you say something about depending on the amount of revenues. Okay. How do you determine how much gets transferred per position? So for Ms. West as attorney, like, do you know that in this particular month, she provided 20% of services to the airport, and we're reimbursed 20% of her salary from that fund? Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I also want to mention, I understand what you're saying, having a administrator document how much percentage they're serving one fund as opposed to another fund. It would be time consuming, and I just want to think about cost benefit and being efficient. For grant purposes, there are grants where you do have to document the time spent
Correct. I
on the
understand.
grant.
Okay.
And the benefit, the cost benefit for that one person
Yes,
doing that,
yes,
taking that
yes.
time, it makes sense.
Yes.
But to have your,
So is it a standard? For example, from Mr. McNair's fund, what determines how much is transferred to the general fund from that fund for each position? And if that's a question you have to find out, let me know, but do you understand? That's my question.
so I hear your question, and I
Okay.
want to just give you the logic behind it. It's
Well-
based on the size of if it's the employee personnel cost, how many employees are we talking? How much time? Because let's say you have a big department, airport is fairly small, so, meaning the number of employees, relative to the number of employees, if we're just taking into account personnel costs, administrators that are spending time servicing the airport fund, the HR spending time to process their payroll, that time spent, and the number of employees that airport fund has. Just the logic behind that. I can't charge airport an exuberant amount if they only have 5 employees, or I'm just throwing out a number. So the logic, as long as you can justify it, it makes sense. It makes logical sense that you're not like being unfair. It's a shared cost among the funds, and it's based on the size. We're considering we're talking about liability. Also, the liability insurance gets charged or hit on general fund under other government services, and that's a high dollar amount. That cost has to be shared, and what's logical is to, okay, what areas have the most buildings? What areas are exposed to the most risk? So that needs to be considered when you're sharing. I'm just bringing you the
Yes.
logic
So
behind the
That
transfers.
sense. I understand. However, then I would like to follow up with you on that.
Okay.
Not necessarily here. I want to think about it, because what I want to ensure the city is doing is, I heard a lot of nebulous words.
Oh, wow, okay.
Logical, risk, fair, we're not being unfair. And when it comes to finance, I'm not sure that's auditable, that's subjective. And I'm saying nebulous, but really subjective terms. And so I think what I'm looking for is in a city policy, and this is probably what my follow-up is going to be when I go think about what I'm trying to get addressed, is what does the finance department's policy say about transferring funds? Where is it documented? For example, we could be doing transferring funds based on how it's always been, but where's the standard? And so that's one thing. So I'm definitely going to come back to that, because I think what's important is when I think about compliance, and again, general compliance from my professional experience, I need to know what the formula or policy is to move, to what that amount should be. That's really what I'm saying. So I will come back with a more specific question, because I don't want to do it here. And the second question I have is anyone performing an internal audit function in finance? And if not, because I know we don't have an internal audit position field, but is anyone looking at, kind of doing some internal audits for the finance department?
The word
'Cause-
internal audit, it brings a lot of,
Okay.
you're bringing a lot, but I will say this, as a finance department, our role is to look at and consistently review internal controls
Correct.
and ensure that we're safeguarding assets. We're looking at trends. When the monthly reports, our financial reports are being presented to you, all the steps it takes to get to that point requires much review. And I wouldn't call it an internal audit. I would call it, that's part of what we do on a day-to-day, is we're looking for anomalies. We're looking for things that are standing out, that don't appear, patterns that aren't historical or don't match up with what was occurred in prior years. We're assessing and looking at internal controls, but
Okay.
an actual function, we don't have a position in place, but we do assess internal controls. And if there's a need to dig deeper, we do dive deeper. We do ask the questions. Departments know they may get a phone call from myself or someone from the finance department asking, hey, this doesn't look up to par. And they also know that if it's a purchase order, if it's an invoice, it will get rejected if it's not up to snuff. And
I
if it doesn't
understand.
have the elements
Yeah.
needed. But if there's a special case, if we see, if I see something, my role is to dig deeper, research it. So, and part of my role would be to, if there's a need for, if I see that the patterns, if I see that there's something amiss here,
Yeah.
a trend that's going down when it should be going up, then I
Okay.
have to ask the questions and dive deeper.
I understand, and I wasn't meaning to explain your job. Those were a couple of questions, and I'll follow up in an email regarding the other question about the transfer logic. Okay, thank
And
you.
I also went, and we will have a whole CRA budget workshop, but I still have some questions about CRA, doing that with the CRA as a separate legal entity, but we will get to that. We're not going to do that tonight because we do have a separate budget workshop, and I think we need to talk about
If
that.
I could just add, because I've only been here 8 months now, and I wasn't here when the budget preparation was occurring. I came in at the end of that process. So your part of answering your question requires me to research and look back to see what happened. And obviously, if there is a need to do things differently, I'm absolutely willing to do that.
Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Pierre? Anything else? Anybody else? Commissioner Campbell, do you have anything? Okay.
No, ma'am, I'm
now-
good. Thank you.
Okay.
This last slide,
Okay.
what's next? I would like you to possibly consider, because I know everyone has very busy schedules, but we also want you to have ample time to review the department's budget. We want you to ask the questions. We're happy to answer any questions. We're all about transparency and opening the books, because these funds are, come from our precious taxpayers' dollars, and we know how hard it is to earn a dollar. So with that said, you see here we have 6 lines here for police. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 groups here that I put together, and in the next few upcoming weeks, we would like to present, but I would also like to possibly facilitate where, if you would consider meeting one by one, or one commissioner assigned to the first group to at least sit down with the departments listed. For example, say Commissioner Borum. He has a lot of information on infrastructure and the history. If he were to sit down with Public Works, Water Reclamation, Sanitation, and Streets, and review their budget thoroughly in a setting, in the conference room with them, asking all the hard questions and getting that out of the way, so that when we come at a workshop, we know that, okay, Commissioner Borum went through this in detail with the departments, and there's a level of back and forth that gets facilitated in that one-on-one discussion, so that when they come to the commission or come to the budget workshop, we're answering questions that constituents and residents have brought forth to Commissioner Borum. That's just an example. But I understand if that's not feasible, but I think it would help to have that one commissioner pick one of these groups, or we can regroup them based on whatever initiative, passionate things that constituents have come to you about. Just a thought to save.
5 areas, so like, you have 5 areas, for example, so you're saying if a commissioner could take an area based on passion.
Correct, yes.
I'm not in agreement with that, and I'll tell you why. I think given the opportunity for commissioners to meet with any department head would probably be the best, but in order for a commissioner to take on a specific group, I think that limits the conversation. And I know that we try to minimize when we come into the workshops, but I do believe that the commission that we have are very thorough, and a lot of the conversations, or a lot of the dialogue that has transpired in our open forum gives the level of transparency not only to the commission but to our constituents as well, that we are, again, being completely transparent throughout this process. So I would disagree with the group, but leaving it open for any commissioner to meet with the department head. But as far as the group, I am not in favor of that, and I won't do it.
I agree, and in the past, we've had each department do a brief presentation during the budget workshop about their budget and kind of explaining why their budget is what it is. That's helpful because we all hear it at the same time. We can also certainly meet with each department, supervisor, manager, whatever. But I mean, I think that's been helpful for me to have those brief presentations about each department budget. And that way the community also hears it.
Agreed. And what I do hear you asking, no, is for the commissioners to like read the submissions and be ready for when we get here. That's what I hear. Oh, go ahead and say it.
Well, Mayor?
Go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
So what I would like to see you as finance or your department actually take on the meeting with the department heads. We know that they have asked, but being more realistic and say, well, you know, everything that we just said here, basically, we're going to be cognizant of what may be coming down the pipe from legislation, and there may be some restraints that we have. Have that discussion and make them come to you with a realistic, hey, we want this wish list, but we could possibly get some responsibility back to the directors before they bring it back up here. And I think that is what we always ask, and we asked that last time. And then, you know, we've given them opportunity up front, and then if it has to still come to us, we can make additional adjustments whatever way, whether it's more money or less money, funding, excuse me.
Can we consider a flat, okay, every general fund department consider 5% cut in your
We
budget?
can
and they
consider
can
that,
show.
but I think we need more information before I would agree to that entire, across the board. I think we just need to know.
And just show the effort, I think. I mean, because it's better that you determine, you being the department head, determine what they could, where they could transfer
Along
that
with the
versus
acting
us.
city manager or interim city manager,
Yeah.
depending on where we are in that process.
Yeah.
Chief Shaw?
If I could, we've done this in the past, and several cities, several of our directors have been involved in it, to where we've sat down with the finance director and the city manager, and we've gone over the entire budget that's looking to be submitted prior to being submitted to the commission. If that is amenable to you all, we can go through and do
Makes
our
sense.
comparisons with the department heads in that manner.
That's what I
And
suggest.
then present you all with what we
Yeah,
come
it makes
from.
sense. Thank you.
Can I add something? Is it acceptable that when the budget is being presented by the departments, that at each line, they explain what's in that line item
That's great.
and go in detail about
The more
what's
information, the
there?
better. Yeah.
Okay.
So in doing that, I just want to understand that our presentations that's been presented before have been very generic in its model, mainly covering just decision units. So if we're talking about discussing on individual lines, it changes our presentations. So if that's what you like, that's fine, then we need to make sure we share that with department heads and send out a different order for them to
Direction, yeah.
come back with.
May I suggest something? Maybe continue with the PowerPoint the way presented, however, provide the detail similar to what we have here, except yours will be much simpler. It would be your general, your account number, your account description, the budgeted amount that you get from finance, and a section where you would write in what's in that line. And that would hopefully provide enough transparency. 'Cause
I don't,
Go ahead,
for me,
Commissioner
sorry,
Davis.
Mayor. Personally, I don't care how it's presented, but let me tell you, I'm looking for, and I think the commissioners are looking for, your rationale. First of all, following the strategic plan that these requests are being made. Second of all, the rationale, and, and maybe I don't know this yet from, based on the experience I have here, but the decision trees are fine, but I just really want to know, what do you want? What's your rationale?
And what do you need?
And
Not
what,
just what
no,
you
no,
want,
no,
but
not what you
need.
want. What do you need?
Yeah.
And what, I want a little bit of what you want, but need first from wants. And what's your rationale? I'm gonna be honest. The decision trees and looking at that, I don't know. But I also want to make sure we're not asking for anything that is labor intensive from an administrative perspective for the information that we give. I'm telling you, the simpler, the better. And consistency from departments.
I'm just taking into account my first month here. I heard the comments that were stated regarding not having the information, not having enough time. So I want to make sure we're meeting your needs.
commissioners. I just need to work
Do you want to say anything, Commissioner Jones?
I think we said it, we already made it clear.
Commissioner Boyle?
And she said, Chief said it about having the explanations out there. It does help to know the sense of urgency, the need, and just give us the information. And then it lessen your time up in front of us, the director. It's up, it's in our face, we can see it, we know. We make decisions of importance.
Right, and obviously you're not going to go through every line item because electric is what it is, water is what it is. So we want to know what the needs are and what the wants are of that particular department and to be able to articulate that so we understand where the folks are coming from.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah.
why would you wanna do that?
And,
Go ahead, Commissioner Boyle.
and I think whatever your requests or your asks are, they need to just align with whatever the city priorities are. So we got to understand and know that's where the budget, everything aligns with where your priorities are. So that's where the funding should flow. And again, you still want to, for every department to be able to submit what they need and, again, prioritize each of those items, and so I think that's in alignment with everything, what everybody else has said, so. But making sure that whatever your ask is aligned with the city's priorities that we've set.
Anybody else? Commissioner Campbell? Since I can't see whether your hand's up or not. Okay.
I want to give you an example. And I probably get dinged, but we need computer monitors for every employee at the city to have a desk. And we're like, oh yeah, that's much needed. But then we go in and we see 50-inch monitors at each desk. The monitors are bigger than the desk. Some of that's overkill. And this is me on a personal note saying this. And so when a person comes up to City Hall or any other office, they go, well, I went in to see this employee, but I couldn't see their face because the computer screen is bigger, it kind of blocked the view. And I've had that, I promise you, and that's why I'm saying in this meeting, it actually was said, and it's like, well, it's something to think about. It's not that you talk about technology and we need it, but is that a barrier to some of constituents? I don't know if some people see it as such, but it's a necessary evil. I guess we need it, but do we actually need a 50-inch monitor on our desk? Those kind of things.
For us that, like myself in accounting, we have a number of screens and websites.
You don't have to justify it. I think we just asking for
As
each.
example, I said.
Yeah, it's hypothetical in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, we have a standard, we have an expectation that's unwritten, and if we need to say it, that department heads, when they're submitting budgets, that are obviously they're going to be fiscally responsible for the request. And when we talk about wants, the want may be something that doesn't exist today that could help their jobs be better. Not like, ooh, pie in the sky. So I think let's level set, and I think most of our department heads understand that. But that's a good example that Commissioner Jones gave, because we are public servants, and we want to make sure that we are appropriate with our utilizing the funds. So I think that's just a general statement.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, do you have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.